Good morning. Good morning. How's it going, everybody? Nice to have you back with me. November 11th. I hope you guys got your poppies out there. Happy Veterans Day to any veteran out there. Um, I got the Yahoo Finance main screen up here. We're going to take a look at the news headlines today and see what's going on out there. We'll also toss in a little bit of gold because we got a potential short trade setting up here, and wouldn't mind sharing some of my thoughts of what I'm seeing on the charts. Because at the end of the day, what we're looking for is whether or not the banks are going to be getting into a short position or not. So we're going to look for the telltale signs of that on the charts. Okay, so we'll be taking a look at that a little bit later today, or a little bit later in this morning session, I should say. All right, so let's get going. Some of the headlines, I'm seeing a lot of talk for Nvidia. SoftBank unloads Nvidia stake for $5.8 billion in surprise move. So I think before we start off, let's take a look at the S&P 500. Okay, because this is where we were talking about over the weekend. Actually, yesterday or last week, I should say, it started where we were taking a look at how price was retracing into institutional demand, and I entered into a position long to take advantage of the move to the upside, and then this week we saw upside. And so the news, as I always say, the news will always spin and have their own reasons why price is doing what it's doing. And this week it was the news of a potential end to the government shutdown. Well, obviously, I don't think that. I think the reason why price is going up is because we have price inside of an institutional buying zone. Okay, this is what happens. Institutional buying comes into play, and this is what happens. Price rallies up. And as you can see, price is indeed rallying up. So what's happening now? Well, when we take a look at the the daily time frame, one thing that's very clear here is that an institutional area of supply has been removed. Okay, this is good because this would be dictating the short-term momentum on the chart. So if supply held, then we'd expect to see a move to the downside over time. But since it's been removed, we expect to see price continue its move to the upside over time. That doesn't mean there isn't going to be a short-term drop in price, because definitely that can happen. It's just the bias is that over the short term, we should expect a move to the upside, simply because the banks right now are removing their short-term selling areas. Okay, so if they're removing short-term selling, they're coming in with short-term buying. All right, now anything can happen live time. Okay, we don't have access to what the banks are doing today and tomorrow. Okay, they do what they're going to do, but all we can see is what they have been doing and what they are currently doing. And based on that, we make an assessment of what is likely going to happen. Okay. So with that being said, Nvidia was on the headlines, so we'll take a look at Nvidia and see what's going on with here. I've been looking to enter a position here, looking for institutional buying to come into play. Our first signal that we had was down here when price came into institutional demand at $90. So we're waiting for new signals. And we had a potential signal here on the weekly time frame, as you can see on my open chart. I had a potential signal here. We are waiting for this area of demand to become valid. Number one, we needed that area of demand to become valid. And if it had become valid, we would be interested in going long there. But it actually didn't become valid. All right. Nice and balanced here, but this isn't institutional buying. Price rallied up, came right back down, contacted that area. Yes, we're seeing some short-term buying taking place right now. And it may turn into longer-term buying, but based on whether this zone is valid or not, and it being not valid, the likelihood of this area holding becomes less, okay? Now, yes, could the banks come in and start buying live? Yeah, they can come in with live orders and start buying right now, but I'm not privy to that information. What I could tell you is that they were buying here, but they didn't validate this area as a significant area of buying, okay? In terms of when price comes back into this area, expecting them to continue buying from this area again, all right? Because they didn't validate this area, there isn't a high expectation of price going higher from this area, okay? So that's what we got with Nvidia. I'm not seeing anything really special there. On the daily time frame, on the way down to this imbalance that we had on the weekly time frame, institutional selling came into play here. So they were short-term selling, all right here. Price has entered into that short-term selling area, and now we are seeing the selling pressure, okay? So I am mentioning this to you because if you're looking at the headlines and you're thinking to yourself, oh, SoftBank unloads Nvidia stake for 5.8 billion, this is probably the reason why Nvidia shares are dropping. No, it's not really the reason why. Okay, institutional selling came into play. This is the institutional selling area that came into play that was so aggressive it removed this area here. Now, this could have been a buying area where we could have initiated a long position from here, but based on what was taking place on the higher time frames, we knew that this was a lower quality area, so we didn't even bother to look for a long position off of that area. Okay, so to summarize, short-term momentum to the downside with Nvidia, and this medium-term buying area is invalid. So we need to wait for new areas to come into the market or wait for a retracement to contact better qualities of demand, better quality demand zones lower on the chart. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing in terms of Nvidia. Good morning, loving this in London. Good, thank you, appreciate it. Thanks for the feedback. Okay, so Nvidia, what do we got? So we got Nvidia here again, CRWV. Let's take a look at that one. Coreweave. What's the news on Coreweave? What's the headline at least? Coreweave trims sales outlook on data center delay. Stock sinks. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on here. So earnings were pretty positive, except I guess they trimmed sales outlook. Okay, so it's not too good, but no problem. Let's take a look at the weekly time frame. We had institutional buying here, okay, and that got taken out, and when it did, they came in with institutional selling. Okay, you see how this works? So this was an important area because they could have dropped price back into this area and continued to buy right here. They could have continued to buy and push price higher, but they decided they didn't want to do that. Now, it's had a pretty good rally. I mean, it's not bad. From $40 to 180. That's a pretty good sized increase. But back here, which would be the week of June 30th, it was decided that they were going to start pushing price lower, okay? The big institutions came in and decided that they wanted to push price lower, okay? We know this for a fact. How do I know this for a fact? Well, because when they dropped price, they removed their buying area. There's one of two things that the banks could have done. They could have bought or they could have sold. So when they are organizing themselves to sell a major portion of their shares, we can see that selling area. And when it comes down and breaks through buying zones, that means the selling is what they were focused on. In fact, I'd be curious to see back in June what the earnings were back then. So June was this area here, and we had mixed earnings, and then the next one was looks like negative earnings, and this one was positive. Interesting, interesting how they've already made the decision to sell here, here, and here, okay? And now price is going to likely continue to the downside, very likely, and they come out with positive earnings, okay? So it might have enticed people to buy this stock right now. I mean, the headline is not very good. Okay, CoreWeave trimmed sales outlook, but the earnings were positive. So what I do see here is that big institutions were selling here, here, and here. You see how price tested that zone and is just selling off? Okay. So there is nothing to stop price until it gets down here. And I will be watching for that. That's a massive move. That's $90 to $60. That's a big drop that price could have. Very big drop for CoreWeave. All right. But I would not be interested in buying this one unless it came down to here. Okay. I'll add this one to my watch list, and I'll be looking for a position down there. If we look at the monthly time frame, this is what we see. Big institutional buying that took place down in this area. So there's nothing between where price is currently and this area of demand. There's nothing to stop price from dropping. Okay. So I wouldn't be touching this stock until it got down to the 40s or $50 area. That's where I'd be interested. Okay. All right. Meta chief AI scientist plans to exit to launch own startup. Okay. So let's take a look at Meta, see how it's responding to the news this morning, and see what's going on with this stock. So on the monthly time frame, it's been a lot of mixed signals here. Okay. We had institutional demand coming in a couple spots here, right here, right here, okay? And the latest one is right here. But this top one here got taken out. Price responded to the second area, rallied price up, and now we got an institutional demand area right here that price is coming right down into. Now, we could see a big jump in price from this area, okay? Some monthly demand zone. It was responsible for putting price into all-time high scenarios, okay, and removing institutional supply. So this is a valid demand area, okay. If you wanted to look to enter into a position long, this would be a good spot to do so. Now, would I want to just trade that zone without any type of confirmation? Probably not. Probably not. And if you ask me why is that, it's because if we look at what's been taking place, it's not been very, it hasn't been very reliable, okay? I don't like when institutional demand zones get removed, okay? I don't like that because who's to say that this one is going to hold, okay? What I will be doing is I'll be watching for price to come into the area, watch for institutional buying to take place on the lower time frame, and once it gives me the signal, and if it's going to take off, it's going to give me a signal. If it gives me institutional demand on a lower time frame, I'll look to enter into a position long, okay? But really, price has really drastically made a huge move here from $100 to almost 800. It seems like maybe, yeah, just falling short of 800. So a bigger pullback could be in the works. All right. Your best bet is that monthly demand zone to go long. That's your best bet from what I'm seeing. Okay. Oil. Let's take a look. What's going on with oil? A lot of craziness with oil. The headline is Trump, U.S. Close to India deal to bring tariffs down. Okay. So we've talked about oil before, and the last thing that we discussed was how we have institutional supply that is currently in play, and that's what's putting pressure on price to the downside. We had that big spike up a few months back, but price came back down. It's holding supply and now putting pressure to the downside. So um, what am I seeing overall? I'm seeing overall bearish pressure. Okay. If there's going to be any type of move, I'm seeing more bearish pressure. Okay. Unless they decide to remove the institutional supply areas. If they decide to remove it, which I'm not privy to that information right now, it could happen. What I'm seeing is what have they done and what are they responding to? They have sold and they are responding to their selling zones right now. So that leads me to suspect that over time, price is going to be dropping on oil. Okay. And INTC, Intel CEO to oversee AI efforts after its head quits for OpenAI. So INTC. Let's take a look at how it's responding to the news, and let's see what the big institutions are doing. So when we look at the higher time frame, what do we see? I see big institutional selling that came into play up in this area. Okay. That's going to be a major roadblock to get price to go higher. I'm going to leave that up there. In terms of some buying, I'm not seeing anything really good here. Let me do something really quick. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything good here. In fact, I see something that's not very positive in terms of a move higher. Let's take a look at what's going on here on the monthly time frame. Yeah, we had some big supply here. This was important. And we have big buying here. Okay. So on the monthly time frame, we have some big buying taking place down here between $20 and $24. Okay. On the very high time frame, targets at 50, give or take, and then expecting some push to the downside. So if I was to enter into a position, let's say down here, long, okay, I'd only be comfortable holding this until the $50 area, okay, because that's where we have massive selling that took place on the higher time frame. And so what do we normally see when we see massive selling that took place on the higher time frame? When price gets up to those areas, we tend to see a move from those areas, okay? Just like what we're seeing here, okay? Look at what happened here. You see the massive selling that came in here, straight down. Look what happened when price got back up to that area. Again, straight down. Just like the buying here. You see the big buying that took place? Look what happened when price got back to that buying area. It continued higher. So we have to respect these areas, okay? Because this is where big institutions are buying and selling. When price gets back to these areas, we're going to see a reaction. That's just what happens in these markets, okay? So Intel looks like some long-term buying taking place down here at the lows. So if there's ever going to be a good long opportunity, it would only be from down here. I would not be buying it where it's at right now, okay? Because sure, it can go higher. That's a possibility, but very unlikely that it's just going to go like that, okay? It's likely going to move up or down in a random fashion, okay? That's why I would only be interested in buying this if it came down to this area. If it came down to this area, then I know the likelihood of price rallying is significant. Okay? Significant. All right. Okay. So I could set an alert. That's what I would do. Set an alert down here. And alerts. And I would just pay attention to this when it gets down there. Monthly key demand zone about to be reached. Look for long entry. And so I leave that there and just walk away. Okay, that's it. All right, let's get back to the headlines. What else do we got here? Um, Big Bear. Okay, so a lot of AI headlines. Let's take a look at Big Bear. I've had this on my watch list for some time. Big buying took place between 296 and 416. I wouldn't be interested in buying this one unless it got down there, to be honest with you, okay? Because like I said, in situations like this, it can go down, it can go up, it can go random. You have no idea, okay? But the point is that if price were to get down here, the likelihood of it rallying up afterwards is a lot higher than if you were to just buy it right at this point. So I'd be staying away from this one for now. Okay, I don't think it's ready for any type of serious move. Um, with that said, we could take a look at Bitcoin too, and take a look at what's going on here. Yeah, so we came in with some short-term buying, but as I was mentioning to you the other day, major selling is taking place right here at these highs. So, and we haven't contacted demand yet, so the pressure will be to the downside. Okay, so Bitcoin pressure overall to the downside. Could it shift directions and go up from here? Sure, it's possible because at the end of the day, when you look at the higher time frames, it's moving up. When you look at the monthly time frame, it's moving up. So when we have the higher time frames in an upward trend, you know, price can fall short of hitting demand zones, and then they come in with more buying. Because what happens is we see the buying that they're coming in with, okay? But they could come in with new buying, okay, at levels that do not reach demand zones, okay? They could start dropping price towards a demand zone and then decide we want to start buying here, and then they'll start creating new demand, okay? So we're not privy to that data, as nobody is, so we'd have to wait and see. But overall, from what I'm seeing, the supply coming in and demand located lower, there's nothing to stop price from dropping further down the chart. All right, so we're going to look at, did we look at Meta already? Yeah. Oh, no, I don't think no, we did look at Meta, but we're going to look at gold now. We'll finish things off by taking a look at gold. All right, so we know that the banks need to take profits on massive long positions. Okay, we know that because the COT report has been suggesting that for many weeks leading up to the government shutdown. One second. Well, now the government is talking about opening up, which is good. So we'll get a new batch of data, which I'll look at and examine. And but you know, this push to the upside was limited because the banks were going to run out of positions, which they do. They always reach a maximum size and they take profits on it. And so we're not privy to whether or not they're taking those profits now based on the data, but we are able to look at the charts and see what is happening. Okay. And what is happening is significant sell-off started here. Supply came into play here. Okay. And so I've been waiting for this area to be contacted to look for a short position, okay? Because this was a selling zone that took place back here. Now I am making the assumption that they're going to continue selling from this area and making a move down. The reason why I suspect a move down to here is going to take place is because that's where the significant buying area was, the last significant buying area that they created. So what typically happens when price comes into selling zones is we tend to see a sell-off, and price will continue to sell off until institutional buying zones come into play. And so that's not until down here. So there's a very decent chance we see a sell-off from up here down to here. Now, am I going to just trade this zone? No, I'm not going to. And the reason being is because we're not in a downtrend, okay? And this is a sell-off of long positions. If we were in a downtrend and supply was coming into play and the banks were entering into short positions, I would be more inclined to trade the zone. But in a situation like this, I want to confirm that they are indeed selling. Okay, so one of the signals we look for, and look at that beautiful sell-off, is RSI. Okay, we look for RSI to shift momentum because RSI is showing us that short-term buying power and how it's dying off. Okay, here is a short-term buying power to get price to enter into supply, as you can see on the RSI, and now we're dropping below the 60 RSI. Okay, dropping below the 60 RSI is a sign that the buying power is diminishing. Okay, so big drop like this, and look where the big drop is originating from, right here. Okay, that's important because if I look across this chart and look to the left here, I'm going to look for big imbalances, things that show me where the banks were selling off. Okay, and I see there's one right here, which tells me there's something here that I want to pay attention to right here. Okay. And I'm not seeing anything really good here. Up here. Okay, we already had a supply area up here. Okay, coming into play right here. The next area I'd be watching for is this area here. Okay. Let's make sure that that doesn't get put onto the daily time frame. Yeah, I don't want that on the daily time frame. There we go. Take it off like that. So this is looking pretty good. If I were to see price rally up here into this selling area with an RSI of 60, I would sell that. Okay? I would sell that. So I would be setting up a trade like this. Okay? I could go for an easy 3-to-1, which would take me to about here. Okay? Or I can go for a bigger move, which is the opposing significant demand area, which would be down here. Excuse me. So that'd be a nice 4.31 risk to reward. Okay. Nice 4.31 risk to reward on that. So this is looking pretty good in terms of the short-term selling. All right. So I'll keep that on my radar this day. It probably will set up today, so I'll have to pay close attention to it. Okay, my friends, any questions on that? I'll take any questions if you got any questions about that. I'm with Interactive Brokers, but I'm using TradingView, that's right, to do my charting. Probably one of the best charting softwares I've seen around. Blowing my mind. Okay, does the cut report contain institutional data for stock market? Not really, only for the indexes. I did talk about BBAI already, BigBear. It was here. Okay. All right, good stuff. I guess I will let you guys go then. Thank you for joining me again. Appreciate it. Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of Christmas music lately. Maybe it's too early. Who knows? I don't care. I love Christmas music. I love Christmas. My family loves Christmas. We got the Christmas tree up. I got my lights on. And I'm proud of it. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me again today. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to get together with you. And I hope this was helpful for you because I want you to understand, you know, what the headlines were, what they were talking about, and how it's affecting the stock charts and what the overall big picture is when it comes to institutional buying and selling taking place on those charts. Okay, so I'll give you a brief overview, and if you want more information, you come and join us, whiteoakfx.com. We would love to have you. All right. Anyways, you take care. Have a good one, everybody.